Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Registered representative, securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer, member FINRA, SIPC, an investment advisor representative, Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Family Wealth Services, LLC, and Cambridge are not affiliated. Welcome. This is Jim Heisler. We're here with Mary Beth Blessing for the third in our series of podcasts today. The topic for today is going to be collaborative divorce. How does it work and how can it help us? But before we get started, let me introduce Mary Beth. Mary Beth's office is located at 310 Huntington Pike in Rockledge, PA, just outside the city limits. Mary Beth has over 23 years of experience as an attorney and also 8 years having worked for the court system. So that's more than 30 years experience. She started her own firm in 1999 as a firm handling divorce, child custody, and related matters. The firm has expanded with 2 additional attorneys on staff, and they handle other areas of personal and business law as well. So Mary Beth, many folks do not know what collaborative divorce is all about. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is and how it works?
Sure. Collaborative means everybody's working together. Isn't that a wonderful concept? The hallmarks for collaborative divorce is that there's a commitment from both the attorneys to each other and to the parties and between the parties that there'll be no litigation in the matter. Matter of fact, they have to sign a participation agreement to that effect. And also that there will be full disclosure of all marital assets, liabilities, financial documents, income, that nothing is going to be held back, which is a wonderful thing because you can spend thousands and thousands of dollars in litigation and still not get what you need financially. So the parties and attorneys sign these participation agreements, and if there is litigation, you lose the attorneys. You have to start all over again. And if there's not full and fair disclosure, the attorney has to withdraw if the process breaks down or there's not full and fair disclosure. The other hallmark is that there's a team approach so that you can build the team however the family needs it. I have done collaborative divorce cases where it's just the attorneys and the parties, and that's all we've needed. I have done them where we've included a child specialist to handle some of the parenting issues if that's problematic. Sometimes we have divorce coaches to help the parties with the emotional issues that are attendant to a divorce. Sometimes the divorce coach and the child specialist can be the same person. Many times we engage mutual appraisers to appraise businesses or to appraise marital homes, so we're not fighting the battle of the experts. And we usually include certified divorce planners to help us gather the financial documentation, to help us look at different possibilities of distribution of the assets and liabilities and the finances, and to help us look at what that's going to look like 20 years down the road, in which case many parties see that they're willing to give a little more because that really changes when you have that perspective. So it's kind of really great to do that. Every member of the team also signs in on confidentiality. There's a sharing of confidentiality among the team members. Every meeting that's held could be some of the team or all of the team, depending on what the needs are. And we do it in a series of what I call 4-way meetings, but could be 5 or 6. The other professionals invited as needed. And we have agendas. And so we work through a divorce in this way. The beauty of it is 100% of the information is on the table 100% of the time, and it's shared by parties, counsel, and the experts. There's a lot of creative thinking and option generating, a lot of thinking outside the box as to what this family needs. It's based on interest-based bargaining, which is not positional in any way. It's looking at what do you need and why do you need it, and what do we have here, and how can we look creatively to divide this, kind of like having a bag of oranges, and if you're asking a judge to divide them somehow, he's going to give very rarely all to one and none to the other, but some to one and some to the other that they think is equitable. and think they did a great job if nobody's happy. And in interest-based bargaining, the idea is, well, what can we do with this orange? Is there another way to divide it? Oh, do you like the pulp? You like orange juice more? Sure, you take more of the pulp, and I like to bake, so I'll take more of the rind. And we've done this in a different way that's going to work for everybody. And most of all, the orange is happy because they're used to their fullest. So it's a lot of creative thinking. I like to think of it as mediation with teeth. So for those parties that aren't comfortable going into mediation into a room alone without representation, you have your attorney beside you. But the attorneys are talking across the table, so I can talk as readily as to opposing counsel's client as I can talk to my own, and vice versa. So it's really a lot of congeniality, yet you have that option of, I need to see you for a minute, I'm not comfortable, can we step outside? So you're there as an advocate for your client, but you're also there to help participate in the process. The other thing that's nice about it is we can agree on what the rule of the law is. Like mediation, we can think outside the box. We can say, hey, support guidelines don't work for this family. We have mom who's a nurse working nights, and we have dad who's the engineer working days, and it's not fair for mom to pay a bigger support order because she has to work nights. So we're going to figure out another way to look at this, and so that we do that. And the parties are making informed choices, so they're being educated along with the attorneys helping them, along with the attorneys being educated by the other experts. So it really works that way. A lot of trust building and a lot of protection for families and their children. And the other thing that's really cool about it is you do a global look at things, which the courts are not capable of doing.
It sounds really, really interesting, and I'm sure, getting back to that point about the children, protecting family and the children, that really is an important factor here, and those considering divorce should really look into this. Now, more specifically with you, Mary Beth, how has collaborative divorce evolved in family law over the past 10 or 15 years? I mean, do you see a larger percentage of divorces going this route compared to the traditional format or through mediation?
Honestly, it's not quick enough for me. Pennsylvania is usually the last one to get on board with creative processes, so we've been a little lax, so though I understand the western end of the state is getting more. So we're hoping that wave keeps coming across the state. This originated in the Midwest and in California, and collaborative can be applied to family law, can be done in all areas of the law, so it's not just
Not just family law, right?
not just family law. But it hasn't caught on as much as we hoped it would. We think part of the reason might be people think all those experts, I have too much money, but that's what you have to do is you consolidate it. And when you look at if it's a kind of divorce that when you're in the court, you're going to have all those experts, then I'm going to have the house appraisal done and the other side's going to have the house appraisal done, and now we're fighting over which one's right. We have one appraisal done. We agree we're going to use it. So it does cut down on costs. It's not quite as inexpensive as mediation is because you have your attorneys. But if you think about this, I have seen collaborative cases get done in 2, 3, 4 sessions.
Wow.
So with just attorneys. And so if you're doing that with just attorneys, that's got to be more cost effective.
Oh,
and
sure.
what I like about it is for the really, really high-end difficult cases where there's a lot of money in a business and a lot of nuances, it lets parties settle things privately. So if you've got that family business that you don't want to be in court saying, gee, we kind of shortchanged our tax return every year and take the risk of a judge reporting you to IRS, that you need to find an alternative dispute resolution process that's private. And then you can say, let's put this on the table. Okay, this is what you did. Or maybe you don't have enough money to keep doing this. And maybe you have to figure out, maybe you're going to do amended returns or what are you going to do to fix this?
That's a great point, and I think a lot of folks, that would make it very attractive,
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, right? So that's really, really, really good to keep in mind. Now, specific with regard to you, Mary Beth, how long have you been involved in collaborative divorce?
The movement began in southeastern Pennsylvania, which I guess we are, in about 2000. Where the group actually got started. I came on board in 2003. I actually was the president of our group for a good 5 years, done a lot of the training with the group. It's now gaining even more momentum. I know that there are sister groups springing up. Bucks County has a group of collaborative attorneys. Our group has expanded considerably. We are now called CLASP, CLASP, and you can find us at that website, Go Collaborative Law, I believe. You can just put in collaborative law and come up with a lot of it. The recent passage of the Uniform Collaborative Act, which is now being individually adopted by the states, has really given the momentum to this process. And so that's also been very helpful.
Yeah, actually, just for those listening, the read up on collaborative family law, it's www.gocollaborativepa.com.
Thank you.
And so let's just talk a little bit about, you mentioned just a few minutes ago about the team approach and how you guys have mental health professionals or counseling folks on hand, as well as financial people when needed. Can you talk a little bit about the collaboration and or the meetings themselves with the lawyers and these other folks and how they tend to proceed and those kinds of things? That'd be great to hear that.
Sure. One of the things that I want to say is if the collaborative process breaks down, everybody's out. So those experts can't be used going forward as well. And that tends to be what keeps people in the process, because you don't want to lose the team that you've built that are working for you and in your best interest to try and get things done that's going to work for everybody. As far as the team goes, we will communicate by telephone in between sessions. We will get each other's reading as to when we need another meeting and what's going to be involved in that meeting, who's going to be involved in that meeting. I have a case going on today that the parties are having a little bit of breakdown as to what they're doing in the parenting area. So we have referred them to meet specifically with the child specialist. So that keeps their cost down. No reason for us all to be there if it's a parenting issue. We have some items that are coming up that need immediate attention. So we weren't planning on having another meeting until the financial person had gotten all their ducks in a row and were able to give the party some input on some budgets that need to be done in the interim and some assets that need to be protected, but certain things have come up financially. For example, one of the parties' lease is going to expire. So we need to get together sooner. So we're on the phone now just trying to figure out when are we all going to get together, who are going to be the players, and in this particular case, it's just going to be the two lawyers, the two parties, and the financial person to keep the cost down. No need to have a child specialist sit in on this.
So when you look at certain situations, Brett, just like any other type of litigation process, what types of situations do collaborative divorces not make sense?
Again, your domestic violence cases, those cases where animosity and alienation is such a high level, it begs for court intervention. It doesn't make sense if somebody's going to try and use the collaborative process just for getting information that quickly comes to light that that's all you're doing. It doesn't make sense if you're not going to cooperate. If a joint appraiser is engaged, a business evaluator, and then the spouse doesn't cooperate and let the business evaluator into the office to look at records, obviously that's not going to be a collaborative case. It's going to filter that out real quick. So when a party commits to a collaborative case, they are really saying, okay, you can look at everything you need to look at to make a decision, to help us make a decision of how we're going to divide this. And then you get into some really hairy issues if one of the party has endangered or dissipated the assets in some way, and that endangerment may come later. It might have been an embezzlement issue. It might have been a gambling issue. It might have been something of that nature. And you can talk about more of what's the impact and what are you going to do about it now? You know, what's going to be fair?
Sure. How does the cost of a collaborative divorce compare to mediation or traditional divorce? We could just give the listener some sense for, you know, the cost effectiveness of this.
It depends on the degree of complexity for the collaborative. I have seen a collaborative case go a year, and there was a lot of animosity between the parties because there was a third party involved in their breakup, and it took the spouse a long time to get past that. So those things can slow up a process. But we did get past it. And it was a great process because we had a lot of different income. We had ESOPs and high hat and golden parachute issues. And so that was very good to get all of that right on the table and to figure out what you were going to do about it. That one took about a year. Like I said, I've had them take 2, 3, 4 sessions, so they've ended up being almost just as cost effective as mediation. But the parties were secure because they had their attorneys right there by their side, so they weren't worried about giving away the store or not having a check and balance on things because we were there. So
Sure.
it can range. It can be extremely cost effective. I still think in collaborative, if you've got a high complexity case, that high complexity case is going to cost you 3 or 4 times more to get through litigation. And at the end of the day, you're going to spend your kids' college educations easily. Whereas here we could say, okay, this is for the kids' college education. Let's pretend we don't even have it. We're not even going to talk about it.
And I think in those situations where there is a lot of animosity, I think it takes, I guess, an initial meeting with an attorney to level set and let people know that, listen, if we're truly going to go through a litigation, what this is potentially going to cost based upon the size of the marital estate and things like that. So
Yeah.
that is a huge consideration, that these other alternative elements for going through the process are there and at their disposal if they choose to use them.
Right. And it's not saying that these processes don't have conflict. Of course they do. A divorce is an emotional, traumatic, full of conflict kind of ordeal to go through. But it's a matter of getting the information you need, doing reality checks. You would be surprised how many people don't have reality checks and they think the court is going to be the be all end all for them, and they are always disappointed when they have their day in court and always feel cheated and say, how could the judge have done that? Well, there's no predictability there, none. In these alternative processes, there's predictability.
Yeah, there's more control. You
There's
can
a
help
lot more
control your
control.
destiny.
And what's important is the people get to say what they need. And when one spouse hears what the other spouse needs or why they need it, there's so much more understanding and clarity that get brought. And for the people that have difficulty with discussions, collaborative is better than mediation.
And wouldn't you think that it would be better for a small group of people to hear those things back and forth rather than a
The whole
courtroom,
world,
right?
right?
And
The whole world.
for the actual record that goes on, for the state.
And the public
Yeah,
record.
public record.
Because dockets are public record. I know when I get to custody mediations and we pull the docket just so that we have the docket information that we have to put on the top of our compliance forms. If I'm pulling a 2 or 3 or 4 page docket, I know I'm going to have a lot of heat in my mediation room. So I'm going to have to really be on my game to watch the conflict there.
Sure.
And to make sure that I help them move through it. So I can tell you right then that this is, whoa, these people can't get along. We're in court all the time.
Absolutely. Well, Mary Beth, do you have any other closing thoughts regarding collaborative divorce?
I just think that people need to think long term, especially with alternative dispute resolution processes. They may be in a hurry to get away from the spouse. That may be fine, but if there are children involved, they are never getting away from the spouse. There are going to be graduations, there are going to be weddings, there are going to be all kinds of things where both spouses have to be together. And the beautiful part about collaborative or mediation or some of these alternative resolution processes is the dialogue that happens. And as someone that's participating in it, whether it be as a mediator or a collaborative lawyer or the arbitrator, the more dialogue, the better. These people have these aha moments where they can reach across their conflict and say, hey, I hear you. I understand you. And that little bit goes such a long way to moving them along the path to get through this as unscathed as possible.
That's great. Mary Beth, thank you so much for agreeing to participate in this session. We really value your comments here. And if you want to reach Mary Beth, you can contact her at 215-663-9016. You can also reach her by email at mblessing, BLESSING, at mbfamilylaw.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Registered representative, securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer, member FINRA, SIPC. an investment advisor representative, Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Family Wealth Services, LLC in Cambridge are not affiliated.